Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us today. Awesome show planned for you today. First thing I need you guys to do, particularly those of you listening on Apple, I need you jamming, slamming that 5-star rating. Gotta have it. We got spam with 1-star reviews. I need to spam them back with 5-star reviews. It's a little thing you can do to help us fight the algorithm. If you're watching over YouTube, hit the subscriptions, hit the likes. It's important. Small, tiny things you guys can do to help us grow the audience. That 5-star rating on Apple, critical. Writing a review on Apple, critical. And hitting that likes and subscription and re-hitting that notifications button. Make sure you're getting notified about the show. Absolutely critical. I got a great topic for us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Republican debate last night. I thought Vivek Ramaswamy was really, really important and critical. I think he's been the star of this election cycle. But I thought last night really brought things into focus. We'll talk about that, and we'll bring on the editor-in-chief of the new blazetv, Matt Peterson, to help me unpack that. Before we do anything, though, I want to talk to you guys about Samaritan Ministries. This is the time of year many of us are thinking about how we're going to pay our family's medical bills in 2024. Before making a final decision, here are 3 reasons you should take a look at healthcare sharing with Samaritan Ministries. 1, you're part of a Christian community. When you have a medical need, fellow Samaritan members send money directly to you to help you pay your medical bills, and you'll do the same for them, all while praying for and encouraging one another. 2, there are no networks which put you in control of your family's health care. You know what's best for them, so you choose the doctors and hospitals you go to and have a say in the treatments they receive. 3, you set your own start date. Join today and start healthcare sharing with Samaritan Ministries right now, or join today and choose what month you'd like to start. It's up to you. Whether it's a broken bone, cancer, pregnancy, or other medical emergencies, you'll find comfort knowing you're connected to 80,000 Christian households across the nation who stand ready to take care of one another spiritually and financially during a time it's needed most. And it could be more affordable than what you're paying now. Check it out now at SamaritanMinistries.org/fearless. All right, guys, I want to talk about last night's Republican debate. I thought Vivek Ramaswamy was spectacular for a number of reasons. I want to start with what a disruptor Vivek is and why he's making people uncomfortable. There's an exchange between he and Nikki Haley that I'll get to at some point where she called him a scumbag. I'll address that as well. But anytime you're a disruptor to the corporate media, to the regime, to the traditional establishment, there's going to be major pushback. And so I've instantly halfway liked Vivek, and he's been on the show twice, and, you know, Kathy Barnett works with him. I like Vivek. Now it's becoming crystal clear to me what Vivek's role is in this presidential election cycle. While President Trump is not participating in these Republican debates, and he's dealing with all the legal problems the left and the regime have ginned up and drummed up about him, Vivek is the guy that is now pushing the conversation forward instead of Donald Trump. He's coming in off the heels of Donald Trump and continuing to expose the establishment and how corrupt our election system and our political system actually is, and hats off to him. So I want to start with Vivek talking about Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson and why these guys should be leading these debates rather than the traditional media, and rather than us getting these prepackaged questions and answer sessions that take us nowhere. Listen to Vivek talking about Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson.
Ramaswamy, let me turn to you. Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer to the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, I mean, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Ross.
Sorry. This is how we get our country back. We need accountability because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
and they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie. Why?
Hey, man, that is Trump-esque. I don't know if Trump could have pulled that off as effectively and as poignantly and as effectively as what Vivek just did. That was great and awesome. That's where the conversation needs to go. Why is the Republican Party beholden to a system that is this obviously corrupt, this obviously rigged against real change, this obviously rigged against the leading candidate for the Republican nomination? And this is the definition of insanity. Let's keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. The questions Vivek just raised there, so obvious. Like, hey man, you're bringing in leftists to run a Republican debate. You're paying leftists and you're partnering with NBC and the left to reach Republican voters. And you're wondering why things aren't working? You're wondering why we're talking about things that don't matter? You wonder why we're arguing back and forth and yelling and shouting at each other and never getting to real substantive issues? You're not even engaging with the people that matter most to your constituents. The Republican Party is rejecting the MAGA movement and working class Americans for the status quo. Hats off to Vivek for calling it out and making those people uncomfortable. That to me was one of the most amazing moments in primary debate cycle, election cycle, commentary or whatever. And there's other great moments, and Trump had some that I'm sure people will remind me of or hop in the comments and say. But to have someone that articulate stand right in their face and call them out for what they're doing and what they have done, the Russia collusion hoax and all the other things, and to see the Republican Party and the chair of the Republican Party go along with this insanity. Hey, here's the people that cost us the last election. Let's get back in bed with them and let's cooperate and work with them as they try to sabotage us in this election. Rather than Joe Rogan has mass audience, Tucker Carlson has mass audience, Glenn Beck, The Blaze has mass audience. instead of working with people that will ask us legitimate questions that relate to our actual base, let's continue on with the charade. Man, do I like Vivek. And I know there'll be people, oh, he's controlled opposition. Oh, he's a psyop. Oh, I don't care if he is a psyop. He's a psyop that I agree with. Call it all out. Make him deal with reality. We have to abandon the establishment if we want real change. Go where your audience and voters actually are. They have rejected NBC. They have rejected CBS. They've rejected Fox News. Look, if not on platforms like this, hell, they should at least go to Newsmax. But to let Lester Holt and a band of liberals define your debate discussion is crazy. It's retarded. And I know I'm not supposed to use that word. I'm going to play you another clip from Vivek, but before I do that, I want to talk to you guys about our inspiration for this show, Preborn. You guys know what Preborn does. I talk about it virtually every day. This week we had Dan Steiner here in studio. We've had Dan on the show twice. I've met with Dan personally. You guys know what Preborn does. It saves babies' lives. Preborn is one of the best promoters of the mindset, the facts, the reality that life begins at conception. You introduce an expectant mother to her baby while the baby's in the womb. You provide that ultrasound, reveal the heartbeat, show an image of that baby. That woman is now twice as likely to choose life over abortion. And then that's when Preborn really steps up and steps in and provides that woman the support she needs, from diapers, anything, through the remainder of her pregnancy and through the first 2 years of that baby's life. Preborn comes in and helps that woman get through that pregnancy and introduces that woman to what will be the love of her life, her child. So you guys know that that's our passion play here, supporting Preborn. You know, as fearless soldiers, we're commanded to support Preborn, to support the concept that life begins at conception. There's two ways to do it. And whether you give $28 or $28,000 or $280, or whether you give 28 cents, it all goes towards supporting that woman, paying for ultrasounds, and then supporting her through the first 2 years of that child's life outside of the womb. Two ways to give. Go to your phone, hit pound 250, say the keyword baby, pound 250, say the keyword baby, or give the way I like to give, preborn.com/fearless, preborn.com/fearless. When you do, send me an email about it. It virtually guarantees you a response from me. I love to hear from you guys when you support Preborn. It motivates me, gets me up every day. All right, so let me go back to Vivek. I want to play his closing statement that talks about Joe Biden and some other things. But let's play this clip because it gets to the exact same point I was referring to earlier. Play the clip.
We've talked a lot about foreign wars tonight, but we're in the middle of a war right here at home. It's a war not between black and white or Democrat and Republican. It's between those of us who believe in our founding ideals and love this country and a fringe minority who hates the United States of America. And I think it's going to take a commander-in-chief to lead us to victory in that war, who first of all knows that we're in a war. Second of all, can't be captured by the special interests along the way. But third is from the next generation, somebody with fresh legs to lead us to victory. I'll shut down the deep state. I'll declare economic independence from China. I'll keep us out of World War III and then revive national pride in this country. I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. end this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just
Mr.
tell us the
Ramaswamy,
truth so we can have an
your
honest
time is
debate.
up.
Remember when Chris Matthews got in trouble for saying he felt a tinkling feeling down his legs when he hears Obama talk? Remember, everybody ridiculed him for that. Maybe I'll get ridiculed, but maybe the same damn thing's happening to me as it relates to Vivek Ramaswamy. When I hear this guy talk, my head gets a little light. I get excited. I just got to be honest. This guy says amazing things. It reminds me of how Trump used to sound in 2016 and 17 and sounded at his inauguration. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe you can say that. And remember what Dave Chappelle talked about when Trump explained how the IRS worked and how, Hillary's not going to actually change the IRS rules because, she knows billionaires, her supporters, benefit from it. And it's like, oh, I didn't know you could say that. And it's like, wow, someone's really being honest. And so here's Vivek saying, hey, look, you're running a sham election. And the media's in on it. The Democrat Party's in on it. Joe Biden's not running for president. It's either going to be Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama or someone else they pull out from out of nowhere, and that they should be having debates with the real candidates, whether it's Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, whomever. They should be honest with the American public that the old dude that they have running around pretending to be president actually isn't going to run for president, and they're making plans right now to replace him. And the media should be talking about it, and the Democrat Party should be transparent and honest with the American people. Wow. That was awesome. That was awesome. And trust me, I know I'll get hit with 1,000 emails from people telling, oh, you can't trust Vivek. He's a psyop. He's controlled, or we don't know enough about his background. I'm going to say it again. I don't really care who put the battery in his back. And I'm almost to the point, if China put the battery in his back, I don't care. Whoever did it and has this guy out here saying real things, hats off to you. If it's George Soros who did it, hats off to you, George. You finally send us something that I can deal with, that I can relate to. Because, isn't there some claim, allegation that Vivek got his start on some kind of Soros scholarship? I think people say that. If that's, hey, George Soros, you finally did something right. You created Vivek. And at least during this election cycle and during these debates, he's saying fascinating, authentic, real things that need to be said out loud. Everybody else is playing a game and going along with the charade and doing politics as usual. And we got Vivek out here running around like, no, I'm not going to play by those rules. I'm going to be baby Indian Donald Trump and just say what I really think. I'm almost ready to jump full on board. I wish, and I know there's a lot of Ron DeSantis supporters out there in the media who just, hey, if we could just get DeSantis and we could just run things like Florida, things will be great. I'm not an anti-DeSantis guy, but I'm just like, I don't want things to run just like Florida. And it's not that I'm anti-Florida. I want the swamp drained. I want a disruptor. I want someone to come in and call BS on this whole corrupt system. This isn't the United States of America and our political system is not a house that just needs a little sprucing up. Well, if we just put the bathroom here and install some new appliances in the kitchen, it'll be fine. No, the United States of America is a house that needs to be gutted, and we have to deal with that. The outside, it's on good land and all that, and the outside is fine, but the inside needs to be stripped to its studs and redone. And that's what I'm hearing from Vivek. And I love it. He's coming in right off the heels of Trump and doing what Trump would be doing if he wasn't off fighting all these legal battles and just was tired and too old to do it anymore. And, Trump made a mess of COVID or whatever, and so perhaps he's limited. But what I'm hearing from Vivek, and, I love it. It sounds like vintage Donald Trump. It sounds like vintage Drain the Swamp. Sounds MAGA to me. And I don't care how it's packaged. I don't, and listen, I'm a Bible thumper. This guy's a Hindu. I don't care. Guy believes in God. He believes in a different one than me. But the stuff I see on his Twitter feed, the stuff I see him consistently saying, do not violate my Christian beliefs. In fact, most of what I hear from him justifies, enhances, supports my Christian beliefs. And so I may be going for the Manchurian candidate. Some of you believe he's right-wing Barack Obama. I disagree with that. Barack Obama never sounded like what I'm hearing from this guy. Never. I love Vivek. I want to take care of one more of our great sponsors before I play this final clip from Vivek. You guys know I've been taking liver health formula for a little more than 2 years. I did it long before they jumped on board as a sponsor of this show. Now that they are a sponsor of this show, it's the most authentic endorsement I can give you. I have a fatty liver. The American Heart Association says that people with fatty livers are 3.5 times more likely to have heart failure than those without. We need to support our liver, and nothing has been better for me on my little weight loss journey and improvement in health than liver health formula. So if you're looking to ignite your fat-burning metabolism, boost your energy, and transform how you look and feel, try liver health formula and receive a free bottle of blood sugar formula to reduce sugar cravings when you order today. Try liver health formula by going to getliverhelp.com/Jason and claim your free bonus gift. That's getliverhelp.com/Jason. Make sure you're hitting that 5-star rating on Apple. Make sure you're writing a review on Apple, and make sure that if you're watching over YouTube, you're hitting the likes. I want to play you this final exchange between Vivek and Nikki Haley, and I'm going to go off on this for a little bit, and then we're going to bring in Matt Peterson, the editor-in-chief of the new blaze.com. But let's play the clip of Vivek and Nikki.
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which is about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my daughter out of your voice.
Adult daughter. The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth.
You're just
the easy
scum.
answer is actually...
How are you going to get in a debate and someone says, hey, you're criticizing me for getting on TikTok, and these aren't the exact words Vivek used, but this is what he was saying. It's like, hey, you're criticizing me for getting on TikTok, and your 25-year-old married daughter is on TikTok. Start there. Clean that up and then come tell me about what I should do. And people are booing, and I just don't think it should trigger you to the point of you're scum. I don't. That's playing the female card. How dare you? I'm a mother. And you're talking about my daughter. And Nikki, you just sound too weak to be president. It's a rough and tumble sport. The man said nothing disrespectful about your daughter. He was talking about you and cleaning up your house before telling him what he should do. Everybody knows that to some degree, I fit the definition, the modern definition of what a sexist pig is. Guilty as charged. When Pearly Thing says women shouldn't vote, I get a little smile on my face. And when I sit and think about why I don't want a woman president, it's what Nikki Haley just did, is why I don't want a woman president. You're scum! Because he told you to get your house in order? First of all, I don't think you were offended by what he said about referencing your daughter. He's scum because he's not going along with the traditional politics. He's his level, what Vivek is doing and what is upsetting people. Same thing that happens to me with many members of the media for a long time. When I was in the newspaper industry, when I worked at Fox Sports, when I worked at ESPN, throughout my career, I've been more honest and more transparent than many of my peers. And I've been ripped for that. I'm going to reference someone who I like and who I think likes me and respects me. But you know, we've had a little disagreements. But I can remember when I used to appear on the Sports Reporters in the early 2000s, and I got crossways with Mike Lupica. And I got crossways with Mike Lupica because Mike Lupica wanted to portray Barry Bonds as the worst human that's ever entered sports and was all over steroids. And I kept getting on that show, and in my columns for ESPN and for the Kansas City Star, my whole narrative was like, what are you guys talking? You know how naive you sound? All these athletes, there's so much money caught up in professional sports, and you think all these athletes aren't using steroids, aren't using performance-enhancing drugs? I can't remember the name of the cyclist. Someone pop in my ear or text me. I'm not thinking Lance Armstrong. There was a rival to Lance Armstrong that was hot for a second, that got busted using steroids. I'm not talking about Lance Armstrong, but if anybody remembers who I'm talking about, but he got into the news cycle, a cyclist, and got busted for steroids. And it was one of those moments where it was an aha moment where everybody was like, oh my God, everybody is using steroids. It's not just Barry Bonds. It's not, is it Floyd Landis? I think it was Floyd Landis. But for some reason, but Floyd Landis makes sense. Got busted, and it was that moment where people was like, oh my God, this is more widespread than we thought. It's not a handful of people. And so it's not, me and Lupica don't get along, and I've said a bunch, but Lupica was very good friends with, and probably still is to this day, with Bob Ryan, someone who I do like and respect. And Bob Ryan once criticized me as the last honest man. And you know, it was, again, I like Bob Ryan. I think he likes me. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, I don't know. But his criticism was, it's like, you think you're the last honest man. And what the gist of it was like, oh, Whitlock says things that he knows everybody else in the media is either too polite or playing by the established rules. And Whitlock wants to cast himself as the last honest sports writer. or the last honest person in the media. And it wasn't that I wanted to cast myself that way. It was just like, that's who I am. I'm very transparent. I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to deal with the consequences of being myself and truly honest. I'm going to say the things that I really think. And I'm going to open up room for everybody else to be more honest. It's like, oh, Whitlock can say that. That means I can say X, Y, and Z. That's what I see going on with Vivek Ramaswamy. That's what I see with Donald Trump, is they speak in such a transparent, authentic, real way. It makes them likable and attractive to people that are tired of everybody else that just goes along with the agreed upon narrative and goes along with the agreed upon lies. Vivek is a true disruptor, following in on the heels of Donald Trump. I like that he's younger. I like what he's doing. It's necessary. He's moving the conversation and having a conversation about things we need to discuss, and he's creating the space for everyone else to follow suit. And so if Ron DeSantis ever wants me to jump on board or other people to jump on board with him, follow Vivek's lead. Start being honest. Start calling BS on the swamp and on the establishment, and quit playing by their rules. Quit putting yourself, hey, let's go to NBC and let them host the debate, rather than going on Joe Rogan or letting Glenn Beck, letting the Blaze put on another debate where you can actually have a legitimate conversation with your core audience. Why are you always playing away games? Change up the rules. Do something different. That's what your constituents, that's what your voters want. They want real change. I'm going to ask Matt Peterson about this and my whole narrative on that next.
It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
Jason Whitlock, previously on Fearless.
And I think it's part of my calling to uplift others and to help them reach their goals and to share, because I'm not trying to do this alone, but am I creating an impression with these pictures, the group shots at the top of the page? I've had to think about this, like, did I bring this on myself? And when I celebrate the people that contribute on this show and tell them how smart they are and tell them how, thoughtful they are, am I doing something that maybe I should back up off of because it tends to blow up in my face, and perhaps I'm making people think that I am retarded, that I'm still that retarded idiot who who walked away from a woman because her booty wasn't big enough. Hey, let's talk about the truth about January 6th. United States Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn has lied before Congress and the American public, and we can prove it. Harry Dunn is a United States Capitol Police officer who testified on January 6th about January 6th to Congress and wrote a memoir painting himself as a heroic martyr who fought bravely against racism and the insurrectionists. He lied. None of those events took place. In fact, he's had mental health problems since adolescence, largely revolving around anger issues. Those anger issues are evident in his breakdowns at the Capitol. He conveniently left that part out of his story. The second installment of our video series, The Truth About January 6th, uses open source videos of a number of Dunn's outbursts that have been released to the public through several trials of the January 6th defendants. This is the reason that we've made the changes we've made to Blaze News. This is important stuff. People's freedom is at stake. If you aren't a Blaze News subscriber, subscribe now to help us continue to do this critical work. For just $36 a year, you can ensure that we can do more meaningful work like this. Go to blaze.com/subscribe to now read the story about Harry Dunn and all the lies he told. Make sure you subscribe today. All right, without further ado, let's bring in the editor-in-chief of the new blaze.com and Blaze News, Matt Peterson. Matt, I want to talk to you today about last night's debate. And I thought Vivek Ramaswamy, to me, had a no-hitter type performance. I loved it. I'm not sure everyone did, but I think the points he made about, hey, why are we here talking to a group of leftists and NBC rather than going to independent media and actually talking to our base and our audience and having a real conversation that serves our base? Why are we here doing this dance with NBC and a group of leftists? I loved that point.
Yeah, look, he kind of just ripped the veil right off, right? I mean, he just took it away. And one of the things that when we say fake news these days that people should think about more is it's not just the fact that there's a bunch of people out there telling propaganda and lies. It's that the stuff we do, the entire framework, right, of media, a lot of it just doesn't make any sense anymore. Right? I mean, if you were an alien from outer space coming in and saying, why are the Republicans, what are they doing right now? I'm like, well, they're having a debate with a bunch of people who hate them in control of the framework, who are going to ask questions that their voters don't care about, with apparently a number of candidates who don't care about what their voters care about. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. There's no rationale to it. It's created by, in some cases, historical factors that don't, structures that don't matter anymore that are still around. It's created by a disconnect between where the voters are and regular people are and what they want to know about, and then this weird prestige system in these coastal cities that everyone else is attached to. And I think what you're seeing is it's all breaking down. And what Vivek did is it's actually a classic folk hero moment on the right. It's the guy who kind of calls out the media. Trump did that, as you said in the monologue. And a number of figures would kind of do that. And to the extent they did, they would rise in popularity a little bit and then kind of disappear. But Vivek is a shining example of that because he's someone who can articulate the reality of the situation. Like what you said in the monologue is so true. I mean, he's the only one saying, what are we doing in this room right now? And why don't we do something that actually makes sense instead?
And so they're doing it out of tradition, out of money, out of fear of their actual base, because a lot of these people don't like their base, they're elitists, and they don't really want to deal with their MAGA base, Tea Party base, working class base. That's a big part of it. But also it's just stupidity and poor leadership. If I'm running the RNC, why would I help put on an event for my enemies, NBC, allow them to make money, gain credibility, they're still the authority? Why wouldn't I be taking a much more, hey, you know where my audience is? And why wouldn't I want to empower Tucker Carlson, Glenn Beck, The Blaze, The Daily Wire? Why wouldn't I want to empower these alternative media outlets that actually are on board with a lot of the things we're trying to accomplish, rather than further empower and make money for NBC, which is hostile to everything we say we want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's insane about this is that, first off, it's like, why does the RNC have control over any of this anyway, right? I mean, if there's any rationale for the Republican Party structure to have control over the debates, it would be to ensure that we didn't have debates that help fund our enemies and that ask questions that we don't care. I mean, if the RNC is going to control the debate system, it should be to ensure that we have debates that actually matter, events that actually bring the voters, the potential voters, what they want and need in order to decide among the candidates. And instead, exactly the opposite has occurred. We are now in a situation, as you describe, in which the RNC is setting up a scenario in which we are not getting the kind of content we want. We're not getting the kind of information we want. We're getting, when it's usually a clown show. The one good thing about this one was somehow letting, the enemy did it. They did a decent job of like corralling everyone, right? Everyone wasn't talking all over the place like the last one. And so I'll say that structurally for them. But the whole idea that they're preventing this good stuff from happening, which is obvious, as you say. So, I mean, how many examples do we have to go through of things that don't make sense here? First off, why would we not want popular people asking questions who are good at asking questions? Because people who are popular stars who are good at asking questions, like Joe Rogan, right? Who are world historically popular, whose audience dwarfs these mental midgets on NBC. Why wouldn't we have them asking the questions? Makes total sense. People who are good at asking questions should be asking questions. People who understand what the audience wants to hear should be asking questions. People who the audience knows and respects should be asking questions. This is not rocket science, actually, right? I mean, we've worked ourselves into a place where, for whatever reason, it just doesn't make sense. The process doesn't make sense. And I think, what we saw, the only bright thing side of anything that's happened in the primary debate so far, it's actually not a debate. It was a Blaze News Summit. And I don't say that just to toot our own horn. I say that because people throughout the country said, oh, what's this? Now we actually have someone we like, Tucker Carlson, asking serious questions of candidates. And they're not all on the stage jabbering at each other, right? You could have a longer, thoughtful, drawn-out. I mean, that was an example of what we should be doing as a nation, as a party. And I don't know, for the life of me, I don't know why the RNC didn't see that and go, oh, maybe we should do more of this, because it was actually good.
I'm going to tell you what I would love to see, because I think the whole debate format in all aspects has kind of lost its relevancy and ability to deliver what we need. I would rather see 4 or 5 candidates in a conversation moderated by a Tucker Carlson or a Glenn Beck or a Joe Rogan. And what I thought Vivek made an excellent point of, he's basically pointing everybody the right direction. Because if you had a conversation among 5 or 6 candidates, I think people would be fascinated to talk to those Republican candidates about, like, hey, who do we think is really going to run for president on the Democrat side?
Yeah.
And what do you think they're doing here? What are the machinations going on behind the scenes in the Democrat Party? And let them gossip, speculate, maybe give inside information what they know about what's going on. Have we ever seen this before in our political history? I would be fascinated by that conversation, and I think Democrats would be fascinated by that conversation, and it might put pressure on the Democrat Party to actually answer a question that everybody in America would like to know. I love Vivek's point at the end about, like, hey, they need to tell us the truth about who we're actually going to be running against. It's a critical question. And then it leads into, like, you remember what they did to Bernie Sanders to make sure Hillary got the nomination. It's a way of engaging people in a conversation about how rigged this process is. And when I see Republicans not trying to push for that type of conversation, to me, it screams, you must be in on it too. You must be comfortable with this rigged system of politics.
Yeah, see, look, I mean, as we know, Washington, D.C., right, the structure that it's created, it always reminds me, whenever I go there, of I think about high school football practice, when you're running around the track, at the end or beginning. Now, when you do that, you learn very quickly, you want to run as a team, right? Because you got to stay together. If someone gets too far out there, it makes everyone look bad. If someone's too far behind, we got to stay together. We run as a pack, as a team. That is exactly how people in Washington, D.C. perceive all of reality, right? Their team, their pack, they have to move in a certain way. You don't get too out in front of anyone else. Then they constantly, you can see the look on their face when you say something that's real that you're not supposed to say at a dinner or a lunch in D.C. Their eyes just glaze over, right? And they realize, oh, I'm pretending this isn't happening and I'm not talking to this person because they're saying something that we're not supposed to talk about. That's the dynamic that from which all of this stems, in my opinion. There are people on the stage who think we can't have real discussions. There's sort of a ritualistic way in which we're supposed to run for office, right? And we only talk about these kinds of issues in this kind of way. And what you and I are pining for, and what you're describing is, what you're describing is a real conversation about the things that we all know are important. That tell us everything we need to know about this race. So in other words, they're still playing in kind of a theater, right? They're still all running together according to certain rules and rubrics that have been around for a while. And I just think we're in a time where, there's always some of that stuff going on, but it's always a show in some way as soon as there's a camera somewhere. But people are sick of that, and it won't work in a digital age. This is why Vivek is so good. Anyone who's younger is in general better because they understand that to get into this game now, you can't have carefully controlled statements, right? We got to the point where you have almost the Walking Dead as president, right? You got Joe Biden just being led around to say this and to say that. That's the old school way, right? But I could have an actor do that. I could have an actor pretend to be a doctor, pretend to be a lawyer, pretend to be a politician, right? Because you can just get them to practice their lines. What you're describing is showing people who someone really is, right? We really want to know. In a conversation, it's harder to hide who you are. You can't prepare, and you got to go back and forth with. You know what else is like that? You know what's brought us back to this? I think it's one of the good things about the internet. Right? You know when it's an account, a Twitter account that's controlled by the social media expert. But when it's the real person, right, and you get a sense it's the real person on the account, that's what you want. You don't care about. They used to call Obama the first Twitter president, which is hilarious now because his statements were controlled, right? Trump, you knew whatever he was doing at the time, you were getting Trump. We're just in an era where you can't have, I don't think, that control anymore. At least it's not appealing to anybody. And it would be fascinating if there were those kinds of discussions. Why aren't we thinking about, new media products in this way? And I do think that, we at Blaze and others are interested in doing this kind of stuff. But what we need right now is really for the Republicans just to stop with this nonsense. The party structure sucks. Rana, I don't know. They reward failure. And we need to open the floodgates for the kind of thing you're talking about.
And so let's say you're a DeSantis supporter, and maybe I'll get Steve Kim on next week to talk about this. The type of conversation I'm talking about would perhaps showcase someone like DeSantis. That he could, in a conversation, he can reveal a deeper understanding of how to navigate a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. And because that when you're in a conversation, it's easy to sniff out who's surface level and just speaking in platitudes and trying to give off one-liners, and who is like, no, here's how you solve it. Here's what we did in Florida. Here's what I did when I was governor, or here's what the president did in 1952 to deal with that issue. And it's a way to reveal a more nuanced, sophisticated understanding of our problems that I think and they love to think all voters are stupid, but we're actually not. People can discern common sense and a deeper understanding rather than this surface level stuff that we get from debates. Oh, did you see that one-liner so-and-so had about that Chris Christie land on Donald Trump is Daffy Duck, or what did he call him? Donald Duck, or whatever. It's like, okay, he called Donald Trump Donald Duck. How does that reveal anything about Chris Christie and why he's a better president? It's a nice little one-liner. It'll play. It's content for CNN and MSNBC and all that, but it doesn't take the actual voter anywhere. And we're just at a very serious time where, once again, the internet and this independent media that's not restricted by time limits and advertising and all that other stuff, you can have deeper conversations with a greater breadth. It would work better for DeSantis. It would work better for all of these candidates, and it would certainly work better for the voters if we promoted conversations with real people and not people that look good in makeup and are, basically there to do what Big Pharma tells them to do.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is the age of the podcast, not the soundbite. And that's what we want. We want the substance. We want to see the back and forth. Even when it's short and sweet on Twitter, you get to see the instantaneous reactions of people to each other. The problem with the recorded old TV medium, right, is you're just trying to get that one shot that's going to be replayed on the news. And, no one consumes their news in the same way anymore. So I see this as a good thing. I mean, this is a potentially enormous opportunity to have very interesting people, more interesting people perhaps than we've had in the past, run for office. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I think someone like DeSantis he's an interesting guy. Like he's a very unique character, and to really get to know like who he is, you need to see him. You need to see him like that. What's astounding to me is this is common sense in a way, right? I mean, yeah, we want to get to know the people who we're going to give the keys to the most powerful country on earth to. And why can't we see them in these kinds of formats, going round and round where it's not so controlled? And that doesn't mean, by the way, they still could bamboozle us. They still could seem great and trick us and not be good. But we'd certainly have a lot more information and ability to decide for ourselves if we did that. And I think our frustration comes from that this is a solvable problem. I mean, let's experiment with different modes and orders, different procedures, different ways of doing it. And there's no reason that we can't do that. And I hope that one positive thing amidst all this is I hope that a lot of people feel the same way, as you do, Jason. I mean, I think a lot of people out there in the audience feel the same way. I don't think that, I think the demand is there. And that's a good thing. And I think people are just so sick of the dance, the rehearsed stuff. And you see that after each debate now. And so I wonder if, that doesn't crescendo in some way and it lead to some actual change. I know that we at Blaze are planning on and pushing to try to, move in the direction we did during the summit. So that's a good thing. And we're going to be working on that.
I've talked myself into next week. I'm gonna reach out to Vivek and RFK, and maybe another one, one of these other Republican candidates. I wonder if they would come to Nashville for a cookout, and we'll have the conversation that we like to have at the cookout. We've had Vivek on the show a couple of times. We've had RFK on the show. We've had RFK in studio, I believe, twice. Heck, I'm gonna try to put a conversation together myself. But last thing, what did you think of Nikki Haley calling my guy Vivek scum?
I mean, I cannot. The look on her face when she did it. I mean, it again. It's like I'm gonna try to come over the top and have a "you go girl" moment, and the whole thing is just. It just makes me sad. Even I can't really laugh or even get mad at it. It has this really pathetic feel to it, where I find it hard to care. To be honest, but I do care. I do care about a cookout with presidential candidates happening in Nashville. That would be badass. That would be incredible.
You know what? Closed mouth can't get fed, so I'm going to ask. I'm going to try. And Matt, if I pull it off, we'll have you here, and I won't make you work the grill. We'll feed you, and we'll let you participate in the conversation. I'm going to try to make it happen. Matt, thank you. Hey, last thing, plug whatever's next with the truth about January 6th and the reporting we've been doing on January 6th.
Oh, we have at least 3 different angles on that story where we are waiting for footage. We are pushing for all kinds of information that is going to lead to even more stories about both Agent Lazarus and Officer Dunn. I think they're in big trouble. None of the mainstream media is saying anything, which is when you're really on. They're scared. They're quiet. And we're real close to some more breakthroughs. Some positive things are happening in regards to us getting access to what we need to tell those stories. But again, this is plug and play. I mean, we're going to keep doing this with investigative reporting and video series, and all we need is that $3 a month, cup of coffee. The more people subscribe, I'm going, I'm pushing in that direction, and it's going to be exciting in the next few weeks. But what we do, you'll see.
Thank you, Matt. We'll see you again. I'll follow up with you about my cookout idea. That's it for us. We'll play some tomorrow. That means we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom.